Okay, so what if you could just ask Strava about your sport activities instead of scrolling through the app? That's why I built my first Strava MCP server, and in this video I will show you exactly how it works. Hi everyone, I'm Lionel, your Microsoft MVP. Building a chatbot that just uses RAG isn't enough if you actually want to talk to services like Strava. That's where the MCP server comes in, and in this video I will show you exactly how I built mine. We'll start with the core problem and the vision, then I will walk you through the architecture and how it all works, before diving into the code and showing it live in action. As usual, feel free to skip around using the timestamps below. So here's the thing, I have always wanted to explore my Strava data in a more natural way, like having a quick chat with it instead of digging through charts and filters. At first, I tried classic RAG, but let's be honest, it just doesn't cut it. The problem is, RAG usually relies on static data like PDFs, markdown files, maybe some database dumps, but Strava is all about dynamic data. It's consistently updating with new activities, segments, kudos, and all that good stuff. So if your model can't fetch that in real time, you're basically sticking to a snapshot from last week. You might think, okay, fine, just call the Strava API directly. I tried that too, but the code quickly becomes super repetitive. Every new endpoint needs boilerplates, error handling, and of course, OAuth 2.0. Plus, there is no conversational layer, you're writing code for every single question. That's when I started thinking what I need is a proper bridge between my chatbot and the actual data. Something that makes this interaction feel smooth and real time. And that's where the MCP server comes in. I will do a quick refresher in a second if you're not familiar with MCP yet. And if you want a full deep dive, I made a separate video all about how it works. The links is on the screen and in the description if you want to check it out later. So let's talk about what MCP actually is. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It's an open standard originally developed by Anthropic for cloud, but now everyone can use it, including us. It basically gives your AI a way to talk to tools safely in a structured way and without hard-coding every interaction. Think of it like a translator between your chatbot and the APIs behind the scenes. You send a request in natural language and the MCP server figures out how to handle it through tools. And here's what my setup looks like. The user talks to a chatbot powered by Azure OpenAI, which sends a request to the MCP server. That server handles authentication with Strava using OAuth 2, and then calls the right API endpoint depending on the user's question. It's a clean pipeline, user, chatbot, MCP server, Strava API. Now let me show you the 4 key files that make this all work. First, we have OAuth2 manager.py. This one handles all the authentication, tokens, refreshes, you name it. Then we have server.py. This is the heart of the MCP logic. It hosts the tools, routes the messages, and connects everything together. Third is Strava chatbot.py, which builds the actual conversational interface. It defines how the assistant responds, what tools he has access to, and how to handle follow-ups. And finally, a bash script, start server, which is a simple orchestrator script to spin everything up for the demo. All this open source is available on my lab repo. Link is in the description if you want to clone it and try it for yourself. Before we dive into the actual code, let me quickly show you what I had to set up to get everything running smoothly. First, I created a clean project folder in VS Code and made sure Python 3 was installed. Then I installed the dependencies listed in the requirements.txt file. Nothing fancy, just a few essentials. Request for calling the Strava API, python.env to manage environment variables, and OpenAI, of course, for connecting to Azure OpenAI. Now, the most important step, you need to create a Strava application. It only takes a minute. I have linked the page in the video description. This app gives you a client ID and client secret, which you will need to put into a .env file so your scripts can talk to the API securely. Same goes for your Azure OpenAI credentials. The key, the endpoint, and the API version all go in that .env file as well. And to make things easier, I have included a .env.example file in the repo. You can just copy it to .env and fill in your actual values. Alright, once that's done, you are ready to write some code. So let's start with authentication, because honestly, without this, we are not talking to Strava. Now, here's the thing about OAuth2. It's a pain, but look at this. This OAuth2 manager class basically handles all the annoying stuff for you, and this method right here, get valid access token, this is where the magic happens. So here's what's clever about this. First, it checks if you already have tokens saved locally. Second, and this is the bit I really like, if your token exists but they are about to expire, it automatically refreshes them. See the 300 seconds buffer, that's 5 minutes, so you never actually hit an expired token. And third, if all else fails, it kicks off the full OAuth flow. Now, this authorized method, this is actually pretty cool. What it does is start a local server on port 8080, automatically opens your browser to the Strava auth page, and then just waits. Once you click authorize on Strava, it captures the code, exchanges it for tokens, and saves everything securely. So you authenticate once, and then it's completely transparent from there. No more thinking about tokens. Right, so now we get to the good stuff, our MCP server. MCP is basically JSON RPC, so we are receiving structured requests and sending back structured responses. These are our two main tools. Get activities, this fetches your Strava activities, and notice how we are using that OAuth manager we just looked at. We build the Strava API URL, add parameters like limit or sport type, and make the call. It's pretty straightforward. But getActivityStats does something more interesting. It aggregates your data to give you statistics, total distance, total time, activities by sport type. Now, here's where it gets clever, the MCP dispatcher. When a JSON RPC request comes in, we look at the method. If it's tools/call, we grab the tool name and arguments, and we route to the right function. It's simple but effective. The response gets formatted according to MCP standards, JSON with the right structure. So this server basically sits there, waiting for MCP requests and turns them into Strava API calls. Now our chatbot Python script, this is where everything comes together. It orchestrates the whole thing basically. This simple MCP client class is our bridge to the MCP server. Look at start server. We are launching that MCP server we just saw as a sub-process. Communication happens over std in, std out, pure JSON RPC, no HTTP, no complexity. And here is how we call our tools. We build a standard JSON RPC request, send it to the server, parse the response, it's clean and simple. But the real intelligence is in generate response. We detect if the question is about Strava using simple keywords. If it is, we automatically fetch the data using our MCP tools. And then, this is a clever bit, we inject all that data into GPT-4's context. So the model receives our actual Strava data in real time, properly formatted, and can give your intelligent responses. So ask a question, get real data, get an intelligent answer. That's the whole pipeline of the script. And finally, our orchestrator bash script start server, the thing that starts everything. First, we check that the .env file exists, because without your API keys, nothing works. We activate the virtual environment, and we simply launch the chatbot. The chatbot starts the MCP server, which uses the OAuth manager. One command, everything works, that's the goal. Alright, let's kick things off by launching our startserver.sh script. You will see the server start up and then prompt me to enter my very first question. So let's ask it to show my latest Strava activity. Since it's the first time asking, VS Code automatically opens a browser window for the OAuth flow. Here I need to authorize my app to access my Strava data. Just a quick click on authorize, and boom, authentication is successful. Now back to the terminal, I ask the same question again, and just like that, my latest activity info pops up. It's perfect, it's working. Let's take it a step further. I ask it for my last 5 Strava activities, and then I'm curious, what is my longest activity? See how natural this feels compared to fiddling around in the Strava app itself. This is exactly why having a chatbot connected through an MCP server is a game changer. And if you are curious to explore more AI projects, especially if you are just getting started, I have some videos that show you how to play with Azure OpenAI or how to use speech-to-text and text-to-speech services. I'm putting them up on screen now. Go ahead and pick whichever one sparks your interest. Thanks for sticking around, I really appreciate it. Take care, and I see you soon.